given the circumstances in which this is a recall hearing with allegations of misleading Parliament, we have decided on balance that we will ask the witnesses to take the oath today in line with those procedures available.
I, Simon Thompson, do solemnly, sincerely and truly declare and affirm that the evidence I shall give before this committee shall be the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
This was the poster I referred to in the last session, which showed that letters were being deprioritised compared to track items, special delivery and parcels. You stand by this submission?
I do, and just a little, just to add a little bit more, Chair, if you don't mind, is
really
that...
time. I just want to know if you stand by this, that it was a one-off rogue poster.
Absolutely.
If I can show image 6 on the screen, please. This is a typed-up version, I think, of the same poster from a different delivery office in a different part of the country, which essentially deprioritises letters before tracked items and parcels. If I could go to image 7, please. This is another version of a poster that's been typed up and attached to a rack in another delivery office in another part of the country, which says if you're unable to complete letters, you can do it the next day and you've got to focus on tracked and special delivery items. Image 8, please. This is a script for managers to read out in their huddles on the kind of delivery office floor from another part of the country, which essentially says the same thing. Image 9, please. This is a pop-up whiteboard that was from another delivery office in another part of the country, which said, do not prep one letter unless you're basically taking everything else first. And the next image, please. This is another version of a written version of that poster from another delivery office in another part of the country that says the same thing. And I think, is there another image? Yeah, and this was a set of instructions that were given in another delivery office in another part of the country that says mail is to be delivered at a minimum every other day. Are all of these rogue posters, Mr. Thompson, or do you not know what's going on in your business?
No, not all of them are rogue posters, and when I answer the question, I answer it again. Our policy is absolutely clear that letters and parcels have exactly the same priority.
Why are there so many posters in delivery offices all across the country that say the complete opposite of what you've just said to the committee? Looking at the transcript, Mr. Thompson, from when you were here last time, you were asked a very direct question. Postal workers have been told to prioritise parcels over letters. Is this accurate? ? You said to this committee, no, that is absolutely not true. Today, you're saying it is true, aren't you, Mr. Thompson?
It's not our policy, but in realities of industrial action, we have to apply a different policy.
You're recognising that what you told the committee last time was inaccurate?
No, I think it's the context.
The problem was that you weren't listening to the question as opposed to misleading the committee with your answer. Is that what you're telling us today?
I heard a different context.
You heard a different question?
A different context.
That's your answer. I mean, it's quite remarkable.
If you've got proper structures in place, surely as senior leaders within the Royal Mail, you'll have a clear understanding of what's happening with your staff. If you haven't, by goodness, you should have, shouldn't you?
Whether it's on the use of PDA and the way you discipline workers or rank workers against each other, whether it's on the verbal briefings very clearly cascading through the business, telling postal workers to do something, and then coming to this committee and telling us that that's not true, are there really that many rogue managers and postal workers dispersed through the entire Royal Mail network going against company policy, or is all of this just a sham? There is clear evidence today, and I think you've admitted it, that you've not been able to deliver the 6 days per week letter delivery obligation. You've blamed the industrial action for that, and previously you blamed the pandemic for it. Ofcom have said that if there's evidence of a systemic failure to seek to offer 6 days per week letter delivery service, that is a breach that requires investigation and potential enforcement. I'm putting it to you today, Mr. Thompson, that there is a systemic failure because you have verbal briefings going through your managers to your postal workers repeatedly over many, many months across the whole country that says, do not worry about delivering your letters for 6 days a week. Do you recognise that, yes or no?
As I wrote in my letter, Chair, it was very, very clear as I wrote in my letter, and I gave evidence including communications from myself. On March 2022, I wrote a column in the Courier magazine that was sent to every employee's home that made it very,
Mr. Thompson, I'm not asking you about a column that you wrote in a magazine. I'm asking you whether you recognise that the fact that managers through your business are verbally cascading briefings to postal workers to not worry about letters being delivered every single day for 6 days of the week, that by its very nature is a systemic failure because it is a system-wide failure. I'm asking you whether you agree with that, yes or no.
We do everything that we can
Do you agree with what I just said? Yes or no?
Can I, just for clarity again, Chair, just so that I'm clear on the question so I can answer it clearly, please?
Is there a systemic failure, a system-wide failure at Royal Mail to deliver letters every day for 6 days each week because there are verbal briefings cascaded through the business that tell postal workers not to worry about delivering letters every day for 6 days a week? That is a system-wide failure. It is a systemic failure. It is therefore a breach of your universal service obligation. Do you recognise the system-wide failure that is currently taking place at Royal Mail?
I totally understand, based on the
Not understand. Do you agree with me, yes or no?
Our USO performance has definitely not been good enough.
Do you agree with me that it is a system-wide failure, yes or no?
It's hard for... I'm sorry, Chair, and I can see that you're getting frustrated with it.
I'd like you to answer the question.
I can see you're getting frustrated with it. I do not recognise those briefings.
There's a theme to your answers today, gentlemen. There's a theme, which is we have rogue posters, we have rogue managers, we have isolated incidences, we've got a global pandemic, we've got industrial action. It's everyone else's fault. Everyone else's fault that there are all of these problems. Nothing to do with me, Gov. Nothing to do with me. In the hearing on the 17th, Mr. Thompson, you said to us, for the first 3 days of absence in any year, you would get full pay. That's no longer the case, is it, when it's before, during or after industrial action? Royal Mail policy now is to assume that you do not get paid unless you prove otherwise, that in your view, someone was sick enough.
No, our policy is absolutely the same today as it was during industrial action as it was before.
Why do I have copies of letters from your HR department to your staff that says, before, during or after a period of industrial action, you were assumed not to be genuinely sick unless you prove otherwise, and pay has been deducted from people's pay slips automatically? That's a complete opposite of what you say your policy is, isn't it?
Our policy is that any absence has to be genuine and reasonable.
You say that a worker would need to present a fit note. Where do you get a fit note?
You get a fit note from your local pharmacy, from your doctor.
GPs will say they don't write fit notes for anything fewer than 7 days of sick. And you're asking people to, one, get an appointment with a GP, two, get something that they're not normally willing to give, and three, to do that in such a timely fashion that they can get the pay when they get paid. I mean, you must recognise that this is very, very difficult for your workers to achieve. This is just a way of being mean to them, really, isn't it?
A young woman with mental health problems had her pay stopped by Royal Mail, and she had to use food banks. She's got 2 kids. She's got severe mental health problems. And we also have seen that disabled workers have had their workloads increased without any review. We've seen reasonable adjustments being removed without consultation. And as a level 2 disability confident employer, how do you explain this?
I'm not aware of those cases, Mr. Lavery. It would be very good if you could provide the information so we can look at that.
That's been your answer on lots of things today. You're not aware of this, you're not aware of that. This is happening without your knowledge. This is happening on the shop floor, man. This is happening to disabled people. It's happening to people who need assistance in the workplace, and yet you just basically shrug it off, saying that it's not happening.
Mr. Lavery, I haven't shut that.
Excuse me.
I haven't shut that.
And you know, you're claiming that it's not the majority of the workforce. These are people who need help from their employer, and they're having their pay stopped. They're having to use food banks. It's not good enough, man.
Okay.
I agree.
Mr. Thompson, I had hoped that you might have come here today to apologise for any misunderstanding, but instead you've said you misheard the question and you've blamed basically everybody else for the problems that we've presented to you today. Might I just politely suggest that good leadership requires some humility and your ability to bring people with you. How long are you willing for this situation to carry on at Royal Mail before you change your position to resolve it?